2 falling. Channel light vessel automatic 6979. Scilly automatic west southwest 4, rain 8 miles 974 falling. Valentia southeast 2, slight rain 7 miles 966 falling. Ronald's Way east by north 6 975 falling. And Mallinghead east by south 8, slight showers 3 miles 975 falling. And here is the weather forecast for the inshore waters of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It's valid for the following 24 hours and issued again by the Met Office at 0500 on today, Wednesday the 27th of March 2024. The general situation: a complex area of low pressure will dominate the weather over the UK and surrounding waters through Wednesday, Thursday and overnight into Friday. So for Cape Wrath to Rattray Head including Orkney, north-easterly 5 or 6, increasing 7 for a time in far west, veering south-easterly 4 or 5 later, occasional rain, moderate or good. Rattray Head to Berwick-upon-Tweed, north-easterly, veering south-easterly 5 or 6, decreasing 3 or 4 later, occasional rain, moderate or good. Berwick-upon-Tweed to Whitby, cyclonic 5 or 6, becoming easterly or southeasterly 3 or 4, occasional rain, moderate or good. Whitby to Gibraltar Point, cyclonic, becoming easterly or southeasterly 5 or 6, occasional rain, moderate or good. Gibraltar Point to North Foreland, southerly or southwesterly 4 or 5, becoming cyclonic 5 to 7, occasional rain, moderate or good. North Foreland to Selsey Bill, southerly 5 or 6, veering southwesterly 5 to 7, occasional rain, moderate or good. Selsey Bill to Lyme Regis, southerly 5 to 7, occasionally gale 8 later, sundry rain or showers, good, occasionally poor. Lyme Regis to Land's End, including the Isles of Scilly, southerly or southwesterly 5 to 7, occasionally gale 8 later, sundry rain or showers, good, occasionally poor. Land's End to St David's Head, including the Bristol Channel, southerly or southwesterly, becoming cyclonic 5 to 7, occasionally gale 8 later in the south, sundry rain or showers, good, occasionally poor. St David's Head to Great Orme Head, including the St George's Channel, cyclonic 5 to 7, sundry rain or showers, good, occasionally poor. Great Orme Head to the Mull of Galloway, easterly or southeasterly, veering southerly 5 to 7, backing southeasterly 4 or 5 later, sundry rain or showers, good, occasionally poor. The Isle of Man, easterly or southeasterly 5 or 6, possibly touching 7, veering southerly 5 or 6, backing southeasterly 4 or 5 later. Rain at first, clearing to scattered showers, moderate or poor in the rain, becoming mostly good. Lochwood to Carlingford Loch, easterly 6 to gale 8, veering southeasterly 5 or 6, rain or showers, moderate or good. Mull of Galloway to Firth, Clyde and North Channel, easterly 5 to 7, veering southeasterly 5 or 6, rain or showers, moderate or good. Mull of Kintyre to Arbuckle Point, easterly or northeasterly 6 to gale 8, veering southeasterly 5 or 6, rain or showers, moderate or good. Ardnamurchan Point to Cape Wrath, easterly or northeasterly 6 to gale 8, veering southeasterly 4 or 5, rain or showers, moderate or good. And Shetland Isles, northeasterly 5 to 7, occasionally gale 8 in the northwest, veering southeasterly 5 or 6, rain for a time, good, becoming moderate or poor for a time. That completes the shipping bulletin, Caroline. We'll have a general weather forecast even in a few minutes.
Thanks, Helen. This is BBC Radio 4. It's 5:30 on Wednesday the 27th of March. Good morning, this is News Briefing with Caroline Nichols. A long-running survey suggests satisfaction with the NHS has fallen to an historic low. Rescue teams in Baltimore have called off the search for 6 people who are missing after a major bridge collapsed. In business, Barclays has apologised to customers experiencing issues with payments after its app went down. And in sport, Wales have missed out on a place at this summer's European Football Championship after losing their playoff final against Poland. Public satisfaction with the NHS has fallen to the lowest level on record. The British Social Attitudes Survey, which asks people in England, Scotland and Wales for their views on health and care services, found only 24% said they were satisfied last year. That was a fall of 5 percentage points on the previous year and 29 percentage points lower than 2020. The Department of Health says it's committed to a faster and fairer NHS in England. Good progress is being made cutting waiting lists. Rescue teams in the US city of Baltimore say 6 people who fell into a river when a container ship brought down a major bridge are now presumed to have died. Rear Admiral Shannon Gilreath of the US Coast Guard said it was suspending its now focus on recovering the bodies.
Based on the length of time that we've gone in this search, the extensive search efforts that we put into it, the water temperature, that at this point we do not believe of these individuals still alive, and so we are going to suspend the active search and rescue efforts.
Figures released later this morning are set to reveal a big annual increase in the number of sewage spills into rivers and seas in England. Last year was much wetter than 2022, and data from the Environment Agency is expected to show the sewer network, which carries rainwater as well as sewage, was overwhelmed more frequently than in previous years. The Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant has sought to cool tensions with Washington, saying that he stressed the importance of the US-Israeli ties during talks with his US counterpart Lloyd Austin. Earlier, Mr. Austin reiterated Washington's message to Israel that the number of civilians in Gaza was far too high.
The safety of the 1.5 million Palestinian civilians in Rafah is also a top priority for the United States. Now, we continue to share the goal of seeing Hamas defeated, so we'll discuss alternative approaches to target Hamas elements. We must also plan ends.
The NSPCC says criminal cases of child cruelty in England have risen by 16% since the start of the pandemic. The Coalition of Children's Charities is calling on political leaders to increase investment in services to protect children at risk of abuse and neglect. Up to 32 million UK passport holders are being urged to check their issue and expiry dates, or risk being refused entry to cities and holiday destinations across the UK. It's the EU. Scores of people are reportedly turning up at airports with passports which don't meet post-Brexit entry rules. One of those says the document must be valid for no longer than 10 years. The UK government used to add up to 9 remaining months from an old passport onto a new one. Nathan Barnes was on his way to Limoges in France when he fell foul of the 10-year rule.
So I had 10 years plus extra months in the passport, which I didn't think would be a problem. And they was very matter of fact about it. They just said, yeah, sorry, you're not coming on. Off the pot. We're gutted, really. I mean, we were surprised to do anything. So we checked online, we thought it was fine, and then obviously we told that at the gate.
The Home Office says entry criteria are available on its website and are constantly under review. Now, Helen Mills is back.
Caroline, thank you very much indeed. Well, we heard that there's some windy weather on the way from the shipping forecast because we've got low pressure sitting off the southwest of Ireland. Actually, it's been named by the Spanish Weather Service as Storm Nelson. That's because of the impacts it will have in Iberia, but it will bring windier weather here in the UK as well, especially tomorrow and especially in the south, but it's throwing lots of rain as well our way. So let's start the detail across England and Wales, where for many, away from the far north of England and the southwest, it's a little bit dry this morning with just a few light showers around, but it's all changed already. Towards the southwest of England, along with the southwest of Wales, we've already got the next band of heavy showers coming in, so they could be thundery, with some hail and some gusty winds as well. They'll push their way eastwards through the day, heavy showers following as well, but some sunshine in between. The temperatures will lift to between 9 and 12 degrees Celsius after a fairly chilly start. Further north across England and into Northern Ireland. We've got some fairly heavy rain around this morning, particularly the eastern side of Northern Ireland. It's been pretty wet overnight. That is all pushing northwards, but the showers will follow here as well. So a little respite really, or that might be just a few breaks in the cloud to help. But gusty winds near the showers, temperatures around about 8 or 9. Finally to Scotland, well, we've got some hill snow around. In fact, that could happen across the Pennines as well, but mostly for the southern uplands and the hills further north across Scotland as that heavy rain, miserable through the rush hour, pushes its way northwards. It might brighten in the south later, Caroline, with some showers, but a high of, what, 6 or 7?
Thanks, Helen. Time now for a look at the papers, and the Times leads with the findings of the survey, which suggests that satisfaction with the NHS has fallen to an historic low, with only a quarter of the British public believing that it's working. The paper quotes experts as saying people feel trapped in a toxic relationship with the health service, supporting it on principle, but increasingly fed up, sick and anxious because of its failures. One campaigner tells the Daily Telegraph the NHS has plunged from being the pride of Britain to an organisation that people moan about nearly as much as the weather. Dramatic pictures of the twisted wreckage of Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore feature on many front pages. The Sun says it was gone in 3 seconds after being hit by a container ship, which the paper says suffered a catastrophic engine failure. The Guardian has a close-up of the ship's bow, which was sliced open by the falling bridge. It says the vessel was also involved in a collision in the port of Antwerp in Belgium in 2016. The Times says that an inspection of the ship at the time found it had hull damage impairing its seaworthiness. The Guardian reports that the CBI has used gagging clauses to prevent staff discussing their experiences of sexual misconduct and bullying at the business organisation. Sources tell the paper that up to 10 non-disclosure agreements have been signed in the past year, accompanied by substantial financial settlements. The new revelations come months after the business group was engulfed in a crisis over allegations including sexual harassment and misconduct. Advisers tell the paper that the Guardian's report calls into question the CBI's commitment to fostering a speak-up culture. The CBI says it does not believe the agreements will prevent staff from taking complaints to the police. The Daily Mail describes as a fiasco the granting of asylum to a man who attacked a woman and her children in Clapham with an alkali substance. The paper says Abdul Zedi won his appeal to stay in the UK despite the immigration judge conceding he'd repeatedly not been honest. Telegraph says evidence given by a Baptist church minister was critical, persuading the judge to allow Zedi to remain after he claimed to have converted to Christianity. Daily Express concludes that the consequences of this bureaucratic bungling are as tragic as they are shameful. The Eye says the state pension age may rise to 68 sooner than previously thought because Rishi Sunak is committed to the triple lock, which says the state pension will rise by average wages, average prices, or 2.5%. The Eye says the Prime Minister may have to speed up the increase in the retirement age to pay for his pledge if the Conservatives win the next general election. And finally, several papers feature Alan Titchmarsh's appearance on North Korean state TV, with his blue jeans blurred out by censors. The Mirror says his attire smacked too much of flower power for the totalitarian regime, because Kim Jong-un considers denim a symbol of Western imperialism. Titchmarsh is a wrong-un, is the headline. The Daily Star says if Kim really wants to target someone for crimes against denim, it suggests Jeremy Clarkson. Now business. Barclays has apologised as some customers experience issues with payments hit by an outage after its app went down. Details from Monica Miller.
Some customers in the UK have complained that the outage affected payment transactions on the app and telephone banking, but ATM withdrawals still worked. The bank posted a message on social media saying the issue had been resolved. Barclays is the latest company to be affected by technical issues in recent days. Last weekend, supermarket Sainsbury's was forced to cancel deliveries to customers after an IT problem. They could only take cash in its supermarkets. The car makers Ford and GM say they will have to reroute some of their shipments after the bridge collapse in Baltimore shuttered the city's port, but the impact will be minimal. It's the busiest U.S. port for car shipments. It handled at least 750,000 vehicles last year. Coal shipments have also been impacted, and customers have been warned about delays. The Singapore flag container vessel named Dolly was heading out of harbor bound for Sri Lanka when it plowed into a support pylon on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. A European firm behind a flying car has sold the tech which powers it to a Chinese company. The air car flew for 35 minutes between two airports in Slovakia in 2021, driving on and off the runway at either end. The Chinese buyer says it plans to manufacture new vehicles for use in an unspecified area of China. In the UK, the government has said that the first flying taxi could be in the air by 2026, and the first autonomous one with no pilot by 2030. On the markets, in the city, the 100 share index ended the day down 13 points at 7,930. On Wall Street, the Dow Jones was down 13 points at 39,282. On the currency markets, the pound is trading at $1.26.7. Against the euro, sterling is at €1.16.5. That makes a euro worth 85.7 pence.
Sport now, and there was heartbreak for Wales in their European Championship playoff match last night. With news of that, the rest of the action is Paul Sellers.
Wales were beaten 5-4 on penalties by Poland at the Cardiff City Stadium as their hopes of reaching a third consecutive European Championships were ended. The visitors scored all 5 of their spot kicks. The Leeds winger Daniel James saw his penalty saved. Ukraine and Georgia have also qualified for Euro 2024 after victories over Iceland and Greece respectively. Jude Bellingham scored with the last kick of the game as England and Belgium drew 2-2 in an international friendly at Wembley Stadium. Liverpool's Conor Bradley scored the only goal of the game as Northern Ireland beat Scotland 1-0 at Hampden Park. Cricket, Maya Bouchier scored 91 off 56 deliveries and Charlie Dean took 4 wickets for 26 runs as England beat New Zealand by 47 runs in the 4th T20 international to take an unassailable 3-1 series lead. In tennis, Victoria Azarenka and Yelena Rybakina are through to the semi-finals at the Miami Open after victories over Yulia Putintseva and Maria Sakkari respectively. In the men's draw, Daniil Medvedev, Yannick Sinner, Nicholas Harry, Grigor Dimitrov and the top seed Carlos Alcaraz are all into the last 8. And in rugby union, the England number 8, Sarah Beckett, has been banned for 3 weeks following her red card against Italy in the Women's Six Nations on Sunday. She'll miss the matches against Wales, Scotland and Ireland.
Finally, a glance back at some of the events that were making news on this date in earlier years. In 2020, Boris Johnson announced he tested positive for coronavirus. He initially said he had mild symptoms before becoming seriously ill and being moved into intensive care 10 days later. In 2019, Theresa May promised to step down as Prime Minister once her Brexit deal had been passed by Parliament. The move failed to persuade enough pro-Brexit Tory rebels to back her withdrawal agreement. Terminal 5 at Heathrow Airport opened for business in 2008. The first few days were beset by flight cancellations and luggage problems. In 1998, the anti-impotence drug Viagra was launched in the United States. It became the fastest-selling drug in the world. And that's the end of the news briefing. Now on Radio 4, it's time for prayer for the day with the Provost of St Mary's Episcopal Cathedral in Edinburgh, John Connolly.
Good morning. We are in what Christians call Holy Week, when we re-inhabit the events of Jesus' final days. Most of the Gospels record that on one of those final days, while he sits at supper, Jesus is approached by a woman who anoints his head with costly perfume. In the version in John's Gospel, the woman is named as Mary of Bethany, and it is Jesus' feet that she anoints and then wipes with her hair. In describing this surprising act, John includes the detail that the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. The Gospel narrators, like most biblical writers, rarely provide extraneous detail. The storytelling is sparse, to the point. To say that the house is filled with the fragrance of the perfume is, like the act it is describing, utterly gratuitous, both completely unnecessary, and yet it gets to the heart of things. For what Mary does to Jesus achieves nothing. Indeed, the disciples protest at the costliness of the perfume, at the waste, and at this lost opportunity to spend the money in service of the poor. Her actions are gratuitous, and in using her hair to wipe his feet, shocking. But Jesus does not join the protests. He receives this anointing offered in love, and affirms Mary that she knows what she is doing, in anointing him for his death, a death that the rest of the disciples are in denial about. Mary cherishes and ministers to Jesus in his most vulnerable moment, and he receives it in love. God of tenderness and love. Your grace is known as much in accepting love as in giving it. Help us be open this day to those moments when we are cherished and our vulnerability named in love. Amen.
Prayer for the day with the Very Reverend John Conway. Now on Radio 4, Farming Today with Anna Hill.
Good morning. New restrictions are being brought in to limit the amount of land farmers can put into environmental schemes in England, with the DEFRA secretary saying food production is key.
I think it's very much biased on prioritising food production and food security, so that was a very good.
Strong currents can wash away cubs, and higher water levels can flood their riverbank homes or halts. Dozens of the creatures have been rescued from waterways in recent months. BBC Look North's environment correspondent Paul Murphy reports from Lincolnshire.
They are the unlikely victims of flooding, but even otters can have too much water. In the sodden landscapes of Lincolnshire, where rivers have been flooded for months, the otter population has been hit hard.
They are really, really strong swimmers.
Summer Hales is a Lincolnshire-based volunteer for the UK Wild Otter Trust.
However, when a river is in flood and the current is really, really strong, they will struggle. Especially mums with cubs, they'll really struggle in the strong currents. And often what will happen is a cub won't be able to swim properly in the strong currents and they'll become separated from their mother.
Those that are rescued from the floodwaters often end up here at a specialist rehab centre in Devon, where plentiful supplies of fresh fish and bottled milk can help them to recover. Record numbers of cubs have been admitted here in recent months, but there are concerns about the overall impact of flooding on the UK's otter population.
One thing that's in their favour is they are very good at adapting.
Dave Webb runs the UK Wild Otter Trust Rehab Centre in Devon.
Whether they can adapt quick enough to cope with, flash floods and things like that, I think they'll struggle, and that's why, obviously they're a highly protected species, and it wouldn't take a lot to actually wipe out a complete population in a certain area.
The human impact of recent record flooding has been very evident, but we've also seen widespread habitat loss for a range of creatures, including the otter. And perhaps the question is whether our wildlife can adapt quickly enough to survive in a changing climate. As flooding events become bigger and more frequent, it puts pressure on these creatures. Here's Summer Hales again.
People wouldn't think maybe that otters would be affected by climate change, but they are. The amount of storms that we've had is absolutely crazy. It seems that we have one every week. It happens here in Lincolnshire and it happens all around the UK. They really struggle with this kind of weather.
The lucky ones to be rescued will build up their strength before being released back into the wild. As spring arrives and the floodwaters recede, it's hoped the otters can re-establish themselves on many of our rivers.
Paul Murphy reporting. Now, all this week we're looking at materials that come from farms. Centuries ago, leather production would have gone hand in hand with animal husbandry in the UK, but now animal hides are very low value and seen by many as a waste product. There are just a handful of tanneries left in the UK for processing hides into leather. Andy Rumming farms in North Wiltshire and is finding creative ways to add value to his hides. Marie Lennon has been to visit him.
We've got 90 suckler cows. As you can see, they're tucking into some hay here. They're crossbreds, a bit of Hereford, bit of British Blue. We're members of Pasture for Life. We make all the silage ourselves here. We finish nearly everything and put as much to our butchery, sell a few carcasses to discerning butchers, and then try and make use of all the byproducts.
Yeah, and we'll come on to one of the byproducts, because you've got a very interesting day today in a village hall a couple of miles down the road.
So it's just about a mile away. We're running our farm sneaker workshop, which is essentially where people come along to make leather trainers out of leather from our own cows. The leather industry has been really on its knees. The hides that we're using today, when these were tanned, most of the other hides from that were going into landfill, so it really was a waste product at that point. As a 40 kilogram slippery wet hide that's just been pulled off an animal, today it will be worth £28 maximum. It's trying to take what is essentially a waste product and make that into a really high value product. Just in here. Making facilities at the end, so help yourself. There's some decent coffee. So people are coming along, they've chosen all the colours and the elements that make up their trainer, and today they're going to kind of put it together.
A lot has got to go into getting those hides from your